Marvel makes a statement at the box office, updates on the Odyssey film, and Netflix CCO said what about Oppenheimer on Netflix? All this and more on this episode of Beyond the Screen. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Beyond the Screen. As always, I'm your host, Ryan Gum, and that's Jake Holtzclaw. Jake, what's up?
What's going on, man? I'm home. We are not together, even though I am home.
What a travesty.
Yeah, it's close, but so far,
An hour away, as always.
which is about normal.
Yeah.
I overshot you.
An hour in the opposite direction instead of the normal. No, we talked about maybe doing an in person, but I don't know if you've heard the news. We talked on the show how we're from Kentucky, and Kentucky is floating right now. We're kind of we're not doing so hot. A big rainstorm came through. A lot of chaos ensued. Bridges overflowed, and then it snowed, and it's going to snow again. And now a lot of freezing temperatures right behind it. So, fun stuff. And that's not necessarily why we're not together, but that is just a fact about where we live. But yeah, Jake, you ready to get
I
into?
tend to build my houses on hills. I don't know about you, Ryan.
You never felt it. Well, I now live not in the boonies, in the sticks. But before, no, I lived where it flooded, and that's it was the cheapest. Anyway, we'll hop right into film news right off the bat, starting with the box office news as always. Captain America: Brave New World opens to $88.5 million during the 3-day weekend. The Anthony Mackie and Harrison Ford starring Marvel flick will more than likely finish the President's Day extended 4-day weekend with Disney's first $100 million domestic opening weekend of 2025, which, if that is like your headline, if, hey, this is the first 100 million we've done of this year and it's not even March yet, I think that says a lot about who you are. I don't think I have to say anything about Disney, but that's just a crazy line for me. The film is currently tracking for almost 200 million worldwide. It's at 190 something, I believe. While critic reviews are mixed, audiences seem to have enjoyed the film. It's kind of hit or miss depending on, well, a variable I'll talk about here in a second. Brave New World currently sits at a solid splat from Rotten Tomatoes with a score of 51%. This would be the third lowest ranked MCU film of all time if this holds, only above The Eternals and Ant-Man Quantumania, which is not company you want to be around. Sidebar, and here's the variable I was discussing. If you do decide to watch this film, a known critique for those who have watched it is that you have to have seen Falcon and the Winter Soldier, the series, which was, I think, debuted like 4 years ago, in order to understand certain references. You've been warned. I'm just letting you all know is that if you haven't seen Falcon and the Winter Soldier leading up to this, you probably will be a little in the dark on certain beats and certain talking points throughout the film. Or if anything, there'll be a good little reference that they make that you will be it'll go right over your head. So, Jake, first thoughts on Disney's first $100 million opening weekend film?
From the ads, I saw that the ads were okay. Whoever chopped up the reels did a decent job building the hype. But I saw a lot of people talking about the Red Hulk just being like, oh man, he looks like all the other Hulks. And it's like, that's not a valid. What do you mean? Yet, duh.
Brother is a Hulk. What do you mean?
I don't know what he was going for there, but so it's like, dude, it's a CGI monster. I mean, what more you want?
Dude, okay, you know what? I'll tell you what's the difference. Red Hulk looks like Harrison Ford. Green Hulk looks like Mark Ruffalo. I don't know what else you want.
There was even a video tied to it with one guy having the same opinion, and it was just different shots of Red Hulk and different shots of like the 2008 Hulk and leading up like all of the different Hulks. And it was like, yeah, that's what we're basing it off of. It's a Hulk. But I did like that Anthony Mackie said, I'm not wearing that stupid cowl anymore. And he finally got away from it. And I guess they gave him nanotech and glasses instead, as opposed to, if you haven't seen the TV show, he was donned in I think the Wakandans gave him a new suit, and it had this attached cowl to it that went from his shoulders up and covered his head. And I think it actually on social media they were calling it popping the top off, which where his hair comes out of the top instead of a closed cowl. Popping the top off, and some people were like, you can only do that if you're a certain skin of Miles Morales, and even those don't look good.
Yeah.
Um, and so a lot of people don't like the pop top, and I guess Anthony Mackie hated the cowl just to begin with as just costume design and comfort being comfortable in it. He said it sucked. So it's nice to see that he had a little bit of weight in terms of the costume design. I think it looks good. There's some cool shots that I saw in the trailers, but yeah, I'm not surprised that it's a low review score. But time will tell if it works its way into the audience's hearts.
Yeah, I've heard people like it. Like, it's not like it's the best film ever, but I've not heard, like, in terms of like everyday like people going to see it, like me and you. Like, I've heard our friends or my friends say, "Hey, it's fine. Like, it's not a bad movie. Like, I actually enjoyed it." Also, in terms of the cowl, I'm not shocked because think about any Batman that's ever been not named Christian Bale who could finally turn his head. You know, like you got a shoulder turn. So I hear his critique and his complaint, but also it's like, dog, you're one of the big guys now. Put the cowl on. No, I'm just kidding. I mean, and it makes sense because if you think about him as the Falcon, I didn't even process that, but he wears just goggles. Like that's his whole thing
Yep.
is leading up to that point anyway. He's only ever worn goggles. So I'm
And
shocked.
people are crapping on the nanotech um, too.
I think it
I
looks
mean,
fine.
they're like everybody doesn't need nanotech. It was cool when Iron Man did it, and then maybe when they went back in time, but not everybody needs it. And I was like, well,
Well, I
yeah, but it's
will
easy. The easy button.
I will that yeah, plot armor is what you call that. But also it's like I think in terms of if you think about realism, if someone actually invented it and had a bunch of friends who were also superheroes and could use it, why wouldn't he make enough or at least give someone to make enough or the ability to make enough, I should say, for his friends? Because obviously it was very beneficial for him to just be able to, tap his chest and nanotech on an Iron Man costume and it be absolutely more powerful than any other mark he had made up to that point. So I think it's more honestly, it makes it more realistic that Tony didn't keep it to himself, and that the rest of them, and as you said, it's an easy avoid plot
Yeah.
armor, avoid plot holes.
People people are just mad at it's a cop out for costume design and it puts it all into CGI.
That I mean, that's also valid, but I mean, I there are worse or excuses to using CGI. I think it's fine.
Well, I mean, you got to remember the Star Wars fanboys, the Marvel fanboys, they're all going to have that opinion.
Disney fantasy films, yay!
I lean on the no nanotech side. I like to see cool costumes.
I understand. I just think that that's like I said. I think there's a lot of other worse excuses for using CGI than that one. Moving on, coming in second is fellow newcomer Paddington in Peru, opening up to 13 million over the 3-day weekend. The film is looking to top 16 million before this President's Day is over. The international haul is already up to 15.8 million. So now, when we keep saying the President's Day, like we talked about before, if you've listened to the show, we talked about how Christmas, Thanksgiving, and all that. There was a fourth day added to the weekend. So for a lot of people today on President's Day, they weren't working. So that was another day for the box office to keep track of and keep numbers of. So as of right now, we're still not quite on a certified list yet. So as we're going to go on, we're really going to emphasize the 3-day weekend and talk about what Friday through Sunday was, and then add in Monday details if we can. So with that being said, going back, Paddington in Peru opened up to 13 million Monday or Friday through Sunday, and Monday is looking today to earn over 16. This third installment into the Paddington franchise stars Ben Whishaw, Emily Mortimer, Olivia Colman, and so many more. The ratings for this film are really interesting to me, Jake. After resounding success with 1 and an even better reception for Paddington 2, the film holds a Rotten Tomatoes score of 94%, which is on par for what it usually does, but only a 6.8 out of 10 on IMDb. Why do you think that is? With Paddington, a franchise, a lot of people claim the second not only is better than the first, but as one of the best films of all time in some circles. So what do you think's up with Paddington 3 or in Peru that is making critics see it in a little bit more harsh light and fans not like it as much?
So, I mean, my question would be, what are they rating it off of? Like, what are they basing it off of? I don't know the difference between IMDb's um, movie ratings versus Rotten Tomato? Like, what's the criteria?
So
You know,
Rotten
for
Tomatoes, if usually when you see like the percentages that we use here, but most of the time out in media too, that's by critics. That is like a collective of what critics rated it. That's like the average mean. And then for IMDb, I'm 99% sure that that's more like audience. That's more or like it's a more variable group of people that are saying, "Hey, this is what I thought about it." Now Rotten Tomatoes does have a audience review system, but that usually doesn't come out until much later.
okay, yeah, I'm seeing the same with a quick Google search that IMDb is um, more normal of what a consumer might think about it, and professional critics have no influence. Whereas Rotten Tomatoes obviously is more critics.
Mhm.
But we'll do both. I mean, it has an audience score, but the tomato meter is generally the. And then there's a Metacritic, um, which does anybody here actually pay attention to Metacritic? Um,
I think it's a good comparison, but like most people, like I like Rotten Tomatoes to see what critics like, but also at the end of the day, you got to kind of keep your eye out for critics too, because they might not have the best interest of the viewer in mind.
okay, Metacritic's a good average between the two. So, well, I mean, whichever one you guys use, they're generally going to be around the right one. IMDb being lower can probably. Well, I mean, what's the Rotten Tomato audience score?
That I couldn't tell you. I don't know if that's out yet. It probably is, but I wasn't able to find that. Thing is, for me, with as you look that up, it's tough to keep a sustained success, especially over two films, nonetheless three. You can look at any trilogy that's ever been, and there's always one that's considered the worst. So, unfortunately, I think when you compare, not only did Paddington 2 have to do this to 1, and 2 just happened to nail it, but now you've got to compare 3 to both 1 and 2, specifically 2. So it's like, what are you supposed to do? Like at that point, like if it is anything less than what Paddington 2 was, and Paddington 2 again in some circles is considered one of the best films of all time, depending on who you are, it's just going to be seen as like a terrible movie, which is unfortunate that some people, they can't look at it as if like objectively speaking, they can't look at it from a non-biased point of view. That I think that was in my mind, that's probably why it's a little bit lower. On top of it, might not be as good. Just sometimes you have back-to-back 100s and the next one's an 80, and that's fine. But I think a 6.8, not even having seen the movie, but knowing how good the first two were, I guarantee the movie's probably like an 8 out of 10. Like the movie's probably pretty good.
Popcorn meter for Rotten Tomatoes says 90%. So IMDb is just generally low for some reason.
Interesting.
And I think it was, um, sorry, I closed the tab without even
No, you're good.
finishing my thought. Um, 10,000 ratings got it a 6.8 out of 10, whereas the popcorn meter, it just says 250 plus. And I'm not sure if that's just a general figure that they put when it gets over 250 or if that's just like a ballpark of it's around 250.
Hmm.
Uh, it's not quite saying how many there actually are.
So
But
after 10,000 ratings, 6.8. So what I'm hearing is IMDb is where the haters live, and that's just what's going to happen.
apparently, but yeah, generally you'll get the article I was reading said IMDb will be either the people who really liked it or the people who really didn't.
Yeah. And on that note, I think that's a good point to go ahead and move on. We'll round out the top five. So it isn't until we get to third place that we get our first familiar face, and that is from Sony's holiday slasher Hard Eyes. Keeping up a positive trend, Hard Eyes keeps in the top three for consecutive weeks. This is the first horror film of 2025 to do so, earning another 10 million over 3 days. The comedy horror has hit 22.6 thus far in its run. Barely losing third place is DreamWorks' Dogman coming in at fourth, earning just under 10 million at 9.7 million in just over 3,300 theaters. The film has earned a whopping 69.5 million domestically and 87.2 worldwide. DreamWorks is looking for a $100 million film. Jake, has DreamWorks officially established itself as the direct competitor to Disney?
I've always preferred DreamWorks. I think everything they come out with is it's just awesome. I don't know. I'm a big Kung Fu Panda guy, so and who can forget Boss Baby? Sorry,
Boss
I'm just
Baby.
looking through the list here now.
The legendary catalog.
Um, so Wild Robot, Kung Fu Panda 4, and then they might have done Spirit, you know, that horse,
Hmm.
Megamind, Shrek, Monsters versus Aliens, How to Train Your Dragon, the Bee Movie, Over the Hedge. Like I'm naming off all of these things that like I grew up with, like Ants. You remember Ants? That shit
Okay.
was crazy. And then Shark Tale and Madagascar. I'll leave it at that. But these are crazy movies, and every movie I'm looking at in the list, I don't remember any of these flopping.
I will say the disrespect to Madagascar is immense right now. That is a quality film, I will say. Loved Madagascar. Ben Stiller is hilarious in Madagascar, and I will stand by that. But yeah, I just think it's interesting to see DreamWorks constantly, anytime there is a feature film by them in just out in the box office, it always seems to be right behind or even in front of a Disney flick. Like Disney is like, they're so big and they come out with so many films a year. And because of their name and because of how just massive of a franchise they are and the amount of IPs they have, they're always going to, just by name, they're always going to make a lot of money. But to see DreamWorks, which yes, DreamWorks is a big company, but it does not compare when you match resources and when you really like tailor the tape them and you look them like in the eye, each of them, they should not be competitors. But it's interesting for me to see DreamWorks always come out with a strong right hook when it comes to just box office competition. So I really like DreamWorks. I'd like to see them continue to grow, and I'm interested to see where they go from here. But yeah, if I had to say, if there's anyone Disney looks out for when they're in their release schedule, right? Like say they're doing a film now and they're looking for next summer. If a DreamWorks film is scheduled for next summer, I think I'd sweat a little bit if I were Disney. Now, Disney, you know, they might hear that and laugh at me, but I mean, I know I would be. So, rounding out the top five is an international sensation. Coming in all the way from China, from Moyan Entertainment and CMC Pictures, is Neza 2 or Neza 2. In its first weekend in American theaters, the film earned 7.2 million, which is just the tip of the iceberg for this film. That's like respectable top five. 7.2, I think 2 weeks ago would have been like third. So like that's a good haul for its first weekend. Not a lot. I haven't seen any promotion for this film. According to figures from Moyan, the film is currently at a domestic haul in China of 1.37 billion. The film is already eyeing the $2 billion mark, and yes, that is a record. The film is already the third highest grossing animated feature of all time, just recently passing the Super Mario Brothers movie. Synopsis, because I had no idea what this was about, and this isn't even really a great one. After the catastrophe, which, comma, that no explanation. Although the souls of Neza and Obing were saved, their bodies would soon be shattered. And I can't pronounce that name. Plan to use the seven-colored lotus to rebuild their bodies. I have no idea what any of that means. I know this is a sequel, and I understand that I did not hear about the first one by any means. What the heck, man? Like, what is this? What happened? Where did $1 billion out of China come from? Why is this film making so much money?
This is one of those mandated Communist Party movies where you have to go watch it.
Every morning you wake up and you look at your phone of your government assigned tasks to do, and everyone, the government said, we must compete with Hollywood. Go watch, what was it? Neza. Go watch Neza. Everybody. That's so
I don't even care
funny.
if you've seen the first one. You have to go watch the second one.
Yeah. It's like trying to get out of jury duty. It's like, I didn't watch the first one. The government's like, no, you must go.
No, this is jury duty. This is their jury duty. Which isn't the worst.
No, can you imagine? It's like you come into work the next day and they're like, where were you? And it's like, government told me to go watch a movie. Like, it's just mad.
Go watch a kid's animated movie.
Had to bring my kids and everything. Had to spend $50 on popcorn. Just angry. That's so.
Oh no, your kids were drafted into the military. It was just.
They're
even worse.
They're off to boot camp. They're all 8 and 9-year-old. I'm the one at home having to buy popcorn and watch Neza 2.
Well, they're not necessarily getting out of it. They're also pumping it through the military. As well.
Oh, that's right. Their funds are going right. This 1.3 billion is going straight to the Chinese military. We will never have an audience in China. I'm sorry to our Chinese listeners. We got blocked. I know there were a lot of you.
To our one Russian listener, thank you.
Hello, sir. comrade. Thank you for joining us. Anyway, do you have any thoughts on the rest of these numbers before we move on?
Dude, as I look down upon my sixth position at number 15, Sonic the Hedgehog 3, as I am the superior Mufasa the Lion King at number 6.
That thing
Um,
absolutely dive bombed after week, like, what is it now? What week is that in? 9? After week 7, that thing just, it ran off a cliff. Pun
yep,
intended.
yep. And then Moana 2's still kind of holding on for dear life at 1.3 million
Yeah.
in 14th.
Who's still going to see
So,
Moana 2? Who's doing
dude,
that to
that
themselves?
one kid into it, man.
Yeah,
or that really creepy guy who just really likes Dwayne the Rock Johnson.
yeah.
He has glasses and brown hair and a beard. He lives in Lexington.
Yeah. Wearing a yellow hat in this moment. Anyway, I'm looking like one of like the things that stood out to me was Companion from Warner Brothers. That film had done really well the last few weeks. It's only in its third week. That's the one with Jack Quaid. 9. I mean, and I think that's probably because films like Hard Eyes was last week, Paddington in Peru, and Marvel's Brave New World are all out, and Dogman's there. So it's like you look at the top 4, and it's like Companion was not competing. But also to see it fall from 5 to 9, like look at the 3 films or the 4 films in between. Neza, Love Hurts, Mufasa, and One of Them Days. I would have thought, as a newer film that was hot, people seem to enjoy it the last few weeks, I would have thought it performed better. It's shocking to see that one fall. So I think if I had to pick a big loser, it would be Companion.
And I didn't think Companion was that hot. I actually think Jack Quaid's other movie that's going to come out where he doesn't have any pain receptors. What's that one called?
Oh, I know what you're talking about. That one, it reminds me of Nobody with Bob Odenkirk.
Yeah. So that one's going to be, I think that one's going to be much bigger than
Probably.
this, because I'm seeing a lot more marketing behind that one. And it's making it, it doesn't appeal to me, but I know that they've got it going on in terms of the marketing for those. And so I'm going to foresee that stay, somewhat top 5 for at least 2-3 weeks, maybe. I just
Yeah.
think that it's cool enough, and Jack Quaid's great. So
Speaking of marketing for the film called Novocaine, which is this film we're talking about, it will be
okay.
released from Paramount.
Novocaine. About Novocaine.
Novocaine? Yeah,
Yeah,
Novocaine.
like it's like the drug, right?
Yeah, Novocaine.
I say Novocaine.
Nah, that
All right.
you're wrong, but that's okay. Anyway,
Awesome.
the film Novocaine is about when the girl of his dreams, and his is Jack Quaid, gets kidnapped. A man turns his inability to feel pain into an unexpected advantage as he fights a bunch of thugs to get her back, which is a really weird way to say that. The trailers look awesome for the film. I won't even lie. I think it looks kind of cool. So like, as it says, Jack Quaid's character, his name is Nathan, cannot feel pain. Then there's a scene where like he punches glass so that he can get, it's like broken glass already, but he punches it as hard as he can so he can get like essentially like Wolverine spikes in his like embedded in his hands, and he starts punching people, and it looks nasty. And he can't feel pain, so he just uses this. Like, there's another scene in the trailer where he reaches into a vat of boiling what was it, oil? Was that what it was? It was boiling
Yeah, it's like a deep fryer. Or
yeah,
something.
and he pulls out a gun, and number one, that thing would not have gone off. Like let's be real. No way, right? Like, I'm not dumb when I say that.
You're gonna see some YouTube videos proving it.
Please, I don't. Anyway, the gun, he was fighting the dude. The gun gets dropped in the deep fryer. He reaches his hand in, pulls it out. The gun and his hand are deep fried. They look like they have breading on them and everything. And he shoots the guy. Don't know how that happens, but it looked dope. I heard visibly, me and Jake were in the theater together when we watched it, and I heard people audibly go, "Oh," when he reached his hand in the deep fryer.
So we've talked a little bit about this before, and you were saying that if you're into body horror or gore in general, this is a movie for you. And I worry about the people with this condition are probably going to have a little bit of backlash or little say. It's like, hey, just because we can't feel pain doesn't mean we won't die from these things. Don't think it's a superpower and whatnot.
Yeah, that is also a good point.
But
Were people with this actual, because this is like a legit, like, I don't want to call it an affliction because it's not, but it's just like a diagnosis, like it's people genuinely have,
condition.
condition. There you go. It's genuine that their nerves just don't receive information so they can't feel pain. And I'm curious to hear what people with this actual condition have to say about Jack Quaid's Mike. What was it? What was his name again? I just lost it. Nathan Kane. Sorry, about
Nathan?
Michael
Yeah.
Kane. Anyway, I think
Um,
that's going to
so
be.
no, I
Oh, go
just
ahead.
it could be empowering. It could be like, yeah, we have a superpower, or it also could be like this is a poor, you know, um, take on it, and kids with this are gonna try and punch windows and what like
Yeah, I think you're always
yes,
going to have that
but
though.
I don't know. You're always gonna have the crazy granola moms who are freaking out.
I think
Parents.
it'll be somewhere in the middle where I think a person that actually does have this will say it's cool, but that's not real. Just whatever, and then we move on. Speaking of moving on, coming up after the break, we've got updates on Christopher Nolan's The Odyssey and strange comments from Netflix chief content officer coming up next. Hello and welcome back to segment 2, main talking points. Believe it or not, that almost 30-minute segment, 25-minute segment was not our main points, and that was just us yapping about whatever in box office news. So hopping into it, we've got 2 major points here. So we've got the Odysseus film and we've got Netflix comments, and we'll get to Netflix comments last. So the updates. It is reported that Nolan's next film will be partially filmed in Greece and in Sicily, including many locations across both countries. Nolan will use a giant mechanical puppet for all of Polyphemus' scenes. Now, I know I probably mispronounced that. Polyphemus? I can't, whatever. The giant cyclops guy within the story. So the 6x6 anthropomorphic puppet will reportedly be built inside of Nestor Cave, which is in Greece. And if you didn't know, in the original story, Odysseus is trapped inside of a cave with the giant cyclops and even witnesses 6 of his companions being eaten alive. Now we will get to see it for real, as we made the joke many weeks ago that Nolan was going to use all the money in the world to bring an actual Cyclops or actual behemoth from the sea. And here it is. It's an anthropomorphic puppet, mechanical puppet inside of a real cave. And what's really cool from what I've been reading about these locations is the original Homer story that was penned all those thousands of years ago happened in real locations across actual like countries and continents. So these areas that he's filming in are places that these stories were written to be in. So that's really cool. That's like a sense of realism for it outside of just practical effects, and probably going to be shot on film reel, which is another thing to keep in mind as we'll talk about that later. So, other news, Maya Goth has also been cast in the mythic action epic. Goth joins Tom Holland, Zendaya, Anne Hathaway, Robert Pattinson, and so many more. Jake, what role do we think Goth will portray? I'm not the biggest like in terms of knowledge on the Odyssey. I haven't read. I don't even know if I've read the whole thing. I just know we kind of studied it in like high school, and it's on my like old text to read list. But if we had to imagine, Maya Goth is most notably known for her Ty West and A24 films, the XXX or Maxine trilogy, whatever it's called. Well, how do you think Goth will transition into? I don't want to call this a more serious role, but Ty West is not Nolan.
Right. I don't know. She's generally one of those characters who's kind of crazy in her films. Um, so I don't foresee she being a love interest as much as maybe Zendaya might. Maya's probably going to be, and I don't know enough about the Odyssey, but I see her as a Medusa. If
Dude,
that's going to be right.
yeah. What's funny is you say that, and that's literally right where my brain was. Is some sort of like I wasn't gonna say Medusa like entirely, but like that is exactly along the lines I was thinking. Is some sort of like eldritch creature, like just something completely just horrific. She's going to be a villain of some sort.
Yeah, she's gonna be a monster, and Matt Damon's gonna have to cut her head off, or something crazy, man.
Get to
And I can't wait
slicing.
for it. I think honestly, Matt Damon's kind of out of left field for a cast, with Tom Holland, Zendaya, and Robert Pattinson. I mean, these are big names, and then kind of Anne Hathaway, and then you got Matt Damon, which is he's not very young. I mean, he's about late 40s now, I think.
Yeah, and what you're talking about is actually the biggest piece of news from the day. So for those who don't know, Universal and the film, the Odyssey's official X account officially revealed that none other than Matt Damon will be portraying Odysseus for all of modern screens. In the first take on this specific story on modern screens is going to be Matt Damon as Odysseus. As things begin to take shape and we're learning more, filming's underway. What do we think?
So just to reiterate, so Matt Damon is 54. Odysseus was 35 to 40. Um, and then Helen, which is the reason he's on this journey, she was abducted, which is probably going to be the story. So
Mm-hmm.
there's a lady named Helen, Helen of would that happen to be the Helen of Troy, perhaps?
No, no way.
Maybe. And so she was abducted. So I don't see. You say Maya
Yeah, Maya.
or Maya? I don't see her as Helen. Um, but yeah, she's gonna be crazy. What do I think about? I think it's gonna be another banger, and I can't wait to see what's coming out the same week because we might have another Barbenheimer on our hands. I'm not gonna force it. I'm not forcing it, but perhaps
The ultimate sin
it's
of
got to be
suggestion, Jake.
suggestion. Yeah, I'm being suggestive here and saying, hey, maybe we got a double feature. Somebody, please, man, I need a live action How to Train Your Dragon 2 or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
come out,
I love the
come out
idea.
with something that I can.
Anytime Nolan releases a film, everyone's like, what's coming out with it? What's the other one? Just completely unrelated.
And Batman 2, Batman 2.
No. That would be nah. And I kind of think, I guess going back, and something that I didn't list in the news is that the way that the X account and Universal X/Twitter account and Universal revealed it was Matt Damon was the first image of him in all of his just uniformed self, in his Odysseus self, and he looked good. I won't even lie, I was kind of not disappointed, but it was also like, huh, like I love Matt Damon. He's a great talent, and he will pull this off. Like once I have enough time to allow that face to fit that character, it'll be fine. But I don't know. I just didn't imagine Matt Damon. I don't know. I could. He fits in this film as like a talent and as like a star. Like any star can fit in there. I'm just happy it's not Tom Holland. But I get this is like the same feeling, or not to the same extent, but like when Garfield the animated feature was like coming out and people were like, it better not be Chris Pratt, and then it was Chris Pratt and everyone was like, ah, that's like I feel that, but to like a tiny degree. Like, oh, of course it was Matt Damon.
Well, I don't know. I'm willing to give him the benefit of the doubt. I think he can do it. I don't honestly had no preconceived notions that it would be. I saw the teasers of like Tom Holland and all the fan portrayals of him in a Greek armor, but I was like, I don't maybe, I kind of believed it, but then I was like, well, if it's not for sure, then I'm not going to and I just didn't think Holland was he doesn't have the grown man look to him quite yet.
He never
Um,
will. I'm not even gonna lie.
and
He will be.
fortunately, his little gymnast body.
He'll look like a child until he's like 55, and then he'll look like his dad. If you've ever seen those memes with his dad, where they're like the same person but he's just older, then that's when he will not be a child anymore. But at that point, it's too late for what we're talking about.
Right.
So going on and moving down the line, I've hyped up this Netflix comment for a while during the show, and it's because I have very strong feelings about how this went. Netflix executives say Nolan's Oppenheimer. I don't know if you guys have ever seen Oppenheimer, but it was a pretty big deal not long ago. Netflix execs
I
say,
don't know if you've been living under a rock,
yeah,
but
you paying any attention? Pretty big movie. Netflix says that Oppenheimer would have had the same impact culturally and upon the masses had been released on Netflix as it was in theaters. So Netflix is like, hey, it doesn't matter that it was in theaters. If it was on Netflix, we would have had the same response culturally. We would have done the exact same thing. And no. I just giving
No.
away my hand, just no. But speaking with the media outlet Puck, which I had never heard of, it's a multimedia outlet, owned by journalists, run by journalists, according to their website. So go you Puck, like good job. Netflix chief content officer Bella how do you pronounce it? Baharia. I'm so sorry, Bella. Miss Baharia claims Christopher Nolan's last cinematic classic would have performed just as well. After being asked this question point blank, she states, quote, "Yes, we would have done an amazing qualifying run. So many people obviously would have watched it. It was a great movie, and I think it would have had that." A light argument breaks out between the interviewer and Miss Bella. And it's just like, even the interviewer, this supposed to be just this completely non-biased, middle of the road person trying to get answers, is like, no. And then they just start going at it to the point to where this person said, quote, "We're going to totally disagree on this. And here's the thing. There's a lot of people who love going to the movies. I love going to the movies. It's just we want to make great movies on Netflix. This idea of everything theatrical is bigger and lasting. You have to think about all those other movies except for the 4 or 5 we just talked about." Whatever that means. Reminder, Oppenheimer made almost $1 billion at the box office through a theatrical release. It made $975 million. Where do we stand on Baharia's comments? Because this is just, I'm not going to say much. I want to hear your response first.
So, not only are you wrong, I'm going to butcher your name, says Ryan.
I'm so sorry. But Baharia is,
Not only, I don't know. I don't know what it is either, but I just think it's funny. It's like, not only are you completely wrong and I'm going to dish your take, but I'm going to mispronounce your name too, because that's how wrong you are. No,
your
but
punishment is I mispronounce your name. That's what happens.
yeah, I think it's, dude, I can't even begin to guess at why this is this person's take, because I think you've got to have your head so far up, somebody's
Say it. Go ahead.
butt,
Go ahead. Say it.
or theirs, that your own or somebody else's, to believe that a movie coming out on a streaming platform, or let's just say Oppenheimer coming out on a streaming platform, would have been equal to, not even saying better. If you think it's going to be equal to the Barbenheimer release, you're insane. Like, it's like you didn't use social media at that time. It was probably the biggest thing. I mean, everybody was talking about it. Memes were rampant. If it wasn't Barbie, and if it wasn't Oppenheimer, it was Barbenheimer at the same time. And I mean, I don't know. It just seems so out of touch, I guess, to think that Oppenheimer would have done the same numbers on Netflix. Because I don't even pay for Netflix, dude. Like, it's there's no point to me pay for Netflix. I don't care for it. And I recently got to look over my girlfriend's shoulder and look at what she was paying for. She just knocked her subscription down to the standard, and it was still several dollars for ads, standard with ads. And then she was paying like $17.99 for regular, no ads. $17.99, man. Ah,
Yeah.
in a world of subscriptions, it's not worth it to me. I would rather bundle, like, I've got an HBO Max, or just Max bundle with the telephone provider, and I'm good. I watch YouTube. I'll go to the movies. I could do without a Netflix original. Sue me.
Yeah, and I completely agree with your point. I want to make another point too, is that like at some point, as the chief content officer, Miss Baharia has to make these comments. Like she has
I
to say
guess.
that. Like, and that I can understand. And I want to say first, I need to put enunciations on these, and I'm so sorry. I type the script and then I come home after work and I read. Okay, so sue me for mispronouncing a name that I hadn't seen before. I apologize, audience. But getting back to this, I think at some point it's like in sports, and I know I'm referencing sports a lot the last few weeks. I apologize, but to continue on that train, it's like if you're a player or a coach or an exec for a certain team that's good, and you're just not as good as another team and you lose, you still have to say, we thought we had a shot. You still have to say, we're a good team. Like, we could have beat them. Because at the end of the day, if you don't believe that, then you really don't have a choice. You know, if you're Netflix and you don't believe you can perform as well as a theatrical release, that kind of undermines the entire point of your business. Your entire business model is thrown out the window if you can't look at a movie theater chain like AMC, Regal, whatever, and say, I can do better than you. Can they? To an extent, yes, in being available really easy and allowing people to be like, I don't want to say lazy as in like a negative thing, but like I watch Netflix before I go to bed. I pay the under $8, like the super standard, like whatever. I don't mind commercials. I don't get to watch all of their stuff that's on there. I'm locked out of certain features, but that's okay for me, right? But like I'm not sitting down. There's not enough on Netflix for me to go, one, to pay above that standard fee, and two, for me to say, you know what, I'm gonna pause whatever I was doing the rest of the afternoon and sit on my couch and watch this. That just doesn't exist, not on Netflix. However, this is where I think exactly what you said, just head up asses, I'll say it, just straight up, like just what you were describing. The point.
If you,
Sorry, go ahead.
well,
Before I
sorry to
continue,
cut
go
you
ahead. No,
off.
go
You
ahead.
have- So, to me, it's yes, you have to say that, and you can say that. I just pray and hope for their sake that they don't believe that wholeheartedly, because to grow and to be better and to understand how you fail in certain capacities against something like theatrical releases, you have to understand that it was better than you. It's not, oh, if it came out on Netflix, it would have done just as well, if not better. You can't believe that wholeheartedly, because at that point, number one, there's no growth. You have no growth mindset if you always think you're better. Number two, it's you'll always be the laughing stock. You'll always come in short because you're not better than everybody else. And so the mindset, and that's just why I hope that it's not their mindset. And I think it's just a PR thing where they have to say it. I'm praying that that's what it is.
Yeah,
for their
I agree. I just can't, again, like you kind of at some point with these things, when especially if in competition, right? You have to be delusional until you can't be. Like there are times, just like in the sports world again, where you are not good enough and you have to accept that and you have to make the adjustments needed. There are other times where you're right there and you have to convince yourself you're better than a team you're probably not, because that's when miracles happen. And it's the same thing with Netflix. It's like Netflix right now, they lost everything we said. They lost the summer of Barbenheimer. Think about the last 12 to 15 years before that. Netflix was constantly, the question was, do people even want to go out to theaters anymore? My second point that I was going to make was that the spectacle is why Barbenheimer worked. The spectacle is why it made $1 billion. Yes, it's a fantastic movie, but think about the double features. I guarantee you that's a record somewhere. The amount of double features purchased in a weekend or in a cinematic showing, like in the box office showing, has to be a record somewhere, because people were going to watch both. That is what made that so special. That's why both are $1 billion movies. Not because you could sit at home. Not because you could like just be lazy and sit on your couch. And again, not lazy in a bad way, but that's why we all watch Netflix. You know, like just to be completely 100% honest, it's, you know, they got good documentaries if you're into documentaries, and other times you just want something on in the background. So it is disappointing to hear her say that. I think, again, at some point you have to believe it. But also, exactly your point, you're completely right. It's like, when are you going to leave room for growth and leave room to learn? Because the thing is, it is a competition. They're in direct competition with every movie theater chain in existence. So, I don't know. I saw this and I almost, like, I laughed. I physically laughed, because it's such a bad take. And again, at some point, like, it's almost like you could do without half of what she said and the point still get across without her sounding like an idiot, to be completely honest. She sounds like a pompous exec. She sounds like someone who drives a Bugatti to work, and, you know, it's just like, that's what she sounds like. And I hate that, because I guarantee she's a great person. At least you hope. But it's like, I don't know. It's just, this rubbed me all the wrong way. And you know, as someone who, I love going to the movie theater, so I guess I would have had this feeling to begin with, but you add on top of it that it's just why do you say it like that? It just, what makes me laugh is that the interviewer was like, no, actually, no, and was starting to argue with the person she was interviewing. That's so funny.
I'm looking through their like Netflix originals list, and I'm sure that they weren't talking about Oppenheimer being a Netflix original, but just going through them, I'm I'm telling you right now, Carry On and Adam Sandler's Leo, they're not putting those butts in a couch to watch those movies like Oppenheimer was putting butts in seats. I can tell you that much.
Yeah. I think now I could be
And that's
wrong.
where I think the delusion comes from.
When I think of like what you're talking about, I think of The Irishman, right? Like that was the closest they've ever gotten to an Oscar. I don't think they've won one since. Not even that film was getting people, as you said, like in butts on couches. Like that was a great film and it got a lot of views, like, and there are some shows on Netflix that do that. There are some like specifically series on Netflix that when they come out, it's like, oh, have you seen this? Have you seen this? Have you seen this? But even those do not have the same spectacle feel, don't have the same draw as a movie theater. I guess that's kind of where like my thing comes in is that like you just can't compare. You just can't. Any final
Yeah.
thoughts?
And,
Sorry, go ahead.
well, yeah, TV series, I think are a tad different. I mean, Stranger Things, Squid Game, things like that. Like, have you seen this? Still, there's a different appeal to I can watch an episode or two, or I'm caught up enough where I can watch one episode a week of these things as they come out. Or if Netflix uploads the whole thing, then I have something to watch while I'm vacuuming my house on a Saturday. Um, that is the market that I think Netflix works really well in, and they have cornered. They are not in the winning uh, against theatrical releases market quite yet, and I don't know if they ever will with this kind of mindset.
No, and we have to move on and we'll go ahead and cut to our break here and go to segment 3. But we could talk at length about what you just said, the difference between why Netflix works with with television type series versus movies. Like we could have an entire episode dedicated to Netflix versus the theatrical chains. But we won't in this episode. Maybe that's something we'll talk about at a later date. Coming up after the break, your film news quick hits. Hello, and welcome back to Be on the Screen. You've made it to segment 3. Thank you so much for making it this far. At this point, I always like to read out where we are in the physical recording. We're 47 and a half minutes in, and if you are, I think it's about 45 in the actual recording. If you're around that time, close to 50 minutes, and you stuck around with us this long, as always, thank you. It's really, it is a big compliment that you guys would want to stick around, and we just thank you. Thank you for being here. I know Jake, he's kind of quiet during this portion of my little heart-throbby moment, but I can tell you he feels it the same. He's not changing his facial expression. He's just sitting there looking deadpan into the camera, but he does feel it. I can tell you whether it's, wait till we get our cameras and you can see us, because this is going to make this a whole lot more entertaining. But again,
I'm thinking about giving you a wet, sloppy kiss on the cheek.
dog,
Staying this long.
hey man, no, don't
Appreciate all the viewers.
listen. You keep promising stuff, and it's gonna
Hey,
happen.
come up to Northern Kentucky, hit me up. I'll kiss you in a Starbucks.
Hell yeah. Anyway,
Yeah.
thank you guys so much for being here. Sorry we got hijacked our moment, but thank you for being here. Keep coming back. Share, tell people about us, leave a comment. I don't think you can leave a voice note under this one. That used to be a feature. I don't think you can do that anymore. But if you send us a voice note on our socials or somewhere on the Hollow Moon socials, we'll play it. We'll put it in here, and we'd love to hear your voice. So thank you guys so much, and we'll go ahead and get into segment 3, quick hits. Starting off, Kendrick Lamar to create a live-action comedy with South Park creators Trey Park and Matt Stone, along with Dave Free. Or according to Paramount CEO Brian Robbins, he calls the script for this, quote, one of the funniest and most original scripts we've ever read, and it's certain to create some fireworks. And that fireworks comment is a pun because the film releases on July the 4th. But further details surrounding the plot are being kept heavily under wraps. So Jake, with everything going on with Kendrick Lamar, fresh off the Super Bowl, his performance, which I thought was pretty good. I know a lot of people didn't like it, but I was pretty entertained. That's the point of the halftime show. I had fun. What do you think of Kendrick Lamar coming out of left field, really, with South Park's Trey Park and Matt Stone?
So I recently discovered Kendrick Lamar like a few weeks before the Super Bowl, so I'm not one of those like new fans just because of the Super Bowl, but I kind of am a new fan of Kendrick Lamar. So I've been listening to him pretty much the entire discography for the past week. It's just been Kendrick Lamar on shuffle, and with that, obviously the social media microphones in my house have picked up on that, and I am being fed Kendrick Lamar stuff. And it seems to be a common thing of Kendrick Lamar glazers. And so there's a thing where it's usually Kendrick Lamar opens his mouth and people are like, give that man a Grammy.
Yeah.
Um, and then he's like, there's a photo of him holding like 5 Grammys. Um, but I'm going to be one of those Kendrick Lamar glazers for a little bit here and say that he's not a stupid fella. This guy is pretty dang smart. And so I look forward to figuring out if he's got any kind of funny bone in him. So if he's helping create with South Park, which South Park's already pretty funny, I look forward to seeing what Kendrick Lamar has to say. Plus, he's got this. He's got opinions. He's got opinions about the way the world is right now, and we saw that with the Super Bowl. Everybody was trying to break it down, and there's like 20 different tiers of like the iceberg goes so deep with just the Super Bowl performance. So I look forward to seeing because they're keeping it under wraps, and with an Independence Day release, we'll likely see some conversations arise from this.
Yeah, and I'm not like a big rap fan, so like I'm not a Kendrick Lamar glazer. I will say from his music that I do know, it is good. I think that the hate for him comes from i.e. one, a Drake fan, or from the fact that Kendrick Lamar is played so prolifically everywhere. Like his music, if you're into the rap scene, he's over the place all the time. Like he's one of those.
If you're even into social media and you listen to like Kendrick Lamar greatest hits, you'll realize that so many audios from TikTok alone are his songs.
Mhm. No, he's wickedly talented and like I like what I've heard. I'm not like I said, I'm not a big fan because I just I don't know. Like you said, you've been listening to him for the past like more than a couple weeks. But
And I don't listen to rap.
yeah,
That's the weird thing.
yeah. And so it's like, and that's what I was about to say. When you said that, I was like, I didn't know. I didn't say anything, but I was like, I didn't know you were a rap fan, and that says a lot. The fact that he pulled you in. Um, but no, he is a. What I will say about Kendrick is one. If you didn't like the Super Bowl halftime, it just wasn't for you. Like, and there's nothing wrong with that, but it wasn't bad. It was very entertaining, especially if you know the lore behind a lot of what happened. It was very, very entertaining. But besides that, he is a great creator, and to see him step out of his comfort zone and out of his little bubble to make something new. Apparently, this is a very as we just said, Brian Robbins is calling this one of the funniest and most original scripts he's ever read. This is the CEO of Paramount. So at some point you probably have to say something like that. We've talked about that with Netflix. So he's going to have to say something similar, but also he doesn't have to say it was one of the best as the CEO. He just doesn't. So I'm interested to see where this goes, and I'm excited to see more content from an already great creator with two other legends in the industry, in Trey Park and Matt Stone. Any comments before we move on?
I have none. I look forward to seeing it.
Moving on, this one's probably my favorite little piece of news from this entire segment here. Taylor Lautner to star in a comedy series based off his real person, Taylor Lautner, werewolf hunter. The idea behind this series is that in an alternate universe, Lautner joins a secret society of werewolf trackers after his time on the Twilight set. It sounds as ridiculous as it probably is going to be. The show was brought to Amazon MGM by indie studio Tornate, creators of BoJack Horseman and Undone. Creator and showrunner Daisy Gardner leads the project that has a logline of, quote, after wrapping the final Twilight film, Taylor Lautner vanished from the spotlight. Fans speculated, tabloids theorized, but the truth is wilder than fiction. Taylor wasn't just taking a mental health break. He was preparing for his real calling, Taylor Lautner, werewolf hunter. Playing himself, Taylor is drawn into a secret society of werewolf trackers who need his unique expertise as he navigates his double life, Hollywood actor by day, supernatural warrior by night. Taylor must wrestle with the ultimate irony, fighting the very creatures that made him famous. Between saving the world, reviving his career, and falling in love, he faces the ultimate question. What happens when your biggest role becomes your greatest enemy? One, fantastic logline, probably the longest, one of the longer loglines I've ever read. I didn't know they usually they were that long. That's like a paragraph. What were we taught? Loglines were two sentences?
Graded. We were graded on how long our log lines were, and heaven forbid we did 2 sentences.
Yeah. So to see, this is literally a paragraph. So one, I'm enthralled. Two, I think this is hilarious. This is the kind of original content I want to see. Like, where did this come from? Who thought about this?
Probably some fan fiction, the same way that all the other
Well,
Twilights were.
that's a little bit more unfortunate, and I don't like that as much. But I just love the idea that someone was like, werewolves, Taylor Lautner, werewolf hunter. And it just was like this weird piecing of the puzzle. And it just, I don't know. I just love the originality behind it. And I think it's going to be hilarious. I think Taylor Lautner's wife, Taylor Lautner, will enjoy watching Taylor Lautner play Taylor Lautner in a film or in a series titled Taylor Lautner.
Did he marry a Taylor?
Yes, he did. Yes, he did. His wife's name is also Taylor, and she did take his last name. I was wanting to see how many times I could say Taylor Lautner in an episode, and I wonder how many it is until it's a record.
Well, you already trip over some words.
Taylor Lautner, Taylor Lautner, Taylor Lautner. It's like tongue twisters get me, man. I'm terrible at them. Moving on past Taylor Lautner. HBO is in final talks with John Lithgow to star as Dumbledore in their new Harry Potter series. Lithgow has a prolific career working on projects such as Dexter, Interstellar, Rise of the Planets of the Apes, and lending his voice to projects like Shrek, specifically as Lord Farquaad. Fans are unsure about this potential casting. Jake, you're a big Harry Potter guy. What do you think about this?
I mean, time will tell, but I think he's got the acting chops to do it. So it's a TV. This is the TV series we were talking about earlier, in past episodes. With isn't it like a retelling of sorts? Isn't that right?
Yeah, they're going deeper into the books.
Yeah, so I think he'll do fine. Yes. I have no strong feelings about it until I start seeing some costume design, so I can really feel his look as Dumbledore, and then I'll finally know once I hear his voice whether or not he kind of sells it for me as a Dumbledore. Because Dumbledore, he's a calm presence. However, he can be booming when he has to calm all the students down in that cafeteria. So he has to be a presence and powerful enough to defeat Voldemort, but also a humble and caring individual towards Harry Potter. So we'll see if he can capture that.
Yeah, on one hand, he's Harry, did you put your name in the goblet of fire? And on the other is, did you put your name in the goblet of fire? And there's there's a big difference.
He was not too happy about that one.
Yeah, no, not a happy camper. And I don't see the problem with this. If you look up what Lithgow looks like, he looks like Dumbledore just naturally, just without the beard. Like he looks the part. I know he's more of a silly, like his character's Lord Farquaad, for example, a little bit more on the silly side, but he's got some dramatic roles. He in Interstellar was fantastic. He was a side character. He wasn't necessarily like the lead by any means, but I mean, Dumbledore, unless it's certain parts of the story, he's not really a main character either. And as you said, I think Lithgow he is a main character, but you know what I'm saying. There are parts where he's not. And I think Lithgow has, you said it best, he's got the chops to do it. I'm, on the other hand, not like a huge Harry Potter fan. Like, I loved the movies, but that's really the gist. I wasn't into the books as a kid, and like, I could read them now, but I don't necessarily, I want to spend the time. I will one day, because I know they're great, but also it's like, I'm not as educated on the Harry Potter series. So there's probably another reason outside of just looks and like acting chops as to why fans are frustrated. But I mean, I was also kind of on the bandwagon of this is unnecessary until the ideas of the each season being able to go further into the books, because the movies really missed a lot. I know there was a ton from the books. Whole characters got cut. Whole character arcs and narrative arcs got cut because they just didn't have the time in 2.5 hours, 90 minutes even, to make it happen. So I'm excited because now you have 8 hours per book. That changes the game, and I'll put it that way. So I'm excited to see what that comes out with. And if you're a fan of Harry Potter, why is Lithgow such a bad casting? I'm just curious. I really want to know. Jake, any thoughts on Lithgow and Harry Potter and HBO?
I have none. I look forward to seeing the other castings.
Moving on, speaking on the Happy Sad Confused podcast, we seem to reference them a lot. Maya Hawke claims that producers are now hiring talent based on the number of followers they have on social media. You heard that correctly. The number of followers they have on Instagram. Quote, they're like, just so you know, when I'm casting a movie with some producers, they hand me a sheet with the amount of collective followers I have to get of the cast that I cast. So if you delete your Instagram and I lose those followers, understand that these are the kinds of people I need to cast around you. What? So if you delete, if I'm a big time actor, I require millions of dollars for my talents. If I don't have an Instagram, they have to cast even better around me, or at least with talent that has a ton of followers, which probably is another A-lister or two, just to make the film profitable in their mind. I guess that would take away from marketing budget, but like, that's ridiculous to me. Jake, you're shaking your head.
Sorry, I'm thinking about it. I'm just like, wow, that's. I mean, if and that's only if that you get the free publicity from those individuals in their social media. Um, but how often is it that the actors actually do post straight up marketing content for their movies besides, hey, movie's done, go watch it? Um, I mean, I'm not seeing whole reels and marketing and whatnot. I mean, honestly, that's a big that's a big risk to take because not always are those individuals as ethical or well received within the social media realm, especially after a controversy. So taking taking a collective number of followers to make a cast might not be ideal when it comes to human nature and how oftentimes people get canceled or fall out of the public favor.
Yeah, and it just
One
seems
possible take.
it seems lazy. Like, and I get it. Trust me, I understand. Film, your penny pinching. You know, you are doing everything you can, and if you can cut an entire budget, like if you could cut 25-30 million dollars off of an A-list film, right? You're gonna do it because then you could spend that on the production. Which, if that's your argument, I can understand. But at the end of the day, like, do you think, and or I don't know, do you think that like Gary Oldman has an Instagram account? Like, be real. This is a guy that could lead your film and multi-time nominated Oscar, an Oscar winner. You know, like, this is a guy that if you get him as your lead or even as a side character, looking back at Harry Potter, he's going to make your film. I doubt Gary Oldman has a presence. I doubt it.
So Maya Hawk just Maya, is that right?
Yeah.
She claims that producers are so there's no specific producers. This isn't all producers. This might not even be multiple production houses. These are just producers are now hiring talent based on number of followers. So it might not be as extensive as we might be worried about, but it is kind of a eyebrow raising what the hell kind of deal because there's no way I mean John Lithgow, sorry.
Yeah.
Um does he have one? I mean, likely, but how often is he even running it? Like that's the question.
Mm-hmm.
And so are these guys and gals and people who just don't use social media in general going to have to hire social media managers and content creators for them to create so they can land gigs? That's crazy.
Can you imagine having to pay for that out of your own pocket just to get movies. Imagine if you are somebody who's on like the lower side of Hollywood and you're trying to make it and you have talent and otherwise you might have been cast, but because you're relatively unknown and because you don't have that A-list status just yet, you're not casting anything because you have 800 followers. That's crazy.
That's even worse. We didn't even go down that route of how much this takes away from talent versus popularity.
Yeah.
I want the talented actor. I don't care how much he costs. You know, if he's the right actor for the role, if he is Odysseus, I want that one. I
Yeah.
don't give a shit how many followers he has.
It-
So
it's insane. And you guys should go listen to the rest of this interview because it was really interesting. Hawk talked about growing up and her famous parents and how she hated it and the lengths taken to keep her identity secret. I didn't listen to the whole thing. I heard that part. I don't remember. I saw another comment when I was doing research for this specific comment, just trying to get the actual quote that maybe she was told by a producer she has to close her mouth more after she speaks because she says herself she's a mouth breather. Like just really nasty stuff. And it's disheartening to hear all this still happening in present day. It's kind of disappointing, especially for someone who's, I mean, for God's sake, the woman's parents is Ethan Hawke and Uma Thurman. You know, like she's the most, like she has the genes to make it happen. But anyway, we'll go ahead and move on. Award-winning Godzilla minus one director Takashi Yamazaki, I nailed that one, Jake, confirms that he is writing for the film sequel and that he is in fact getting a larger budget. Yamazaki would also describe what interests him about a potential sequel outside of the success of the original. Quote, I know that, oh God, here we go. Shikishima's war seems over and we've reached this state of peace and calm, but perhaps it's the calm before the storm and the characters have not yet been forgiven for what they have imposed upon them. Jake, did you see minus one? And even if not,
I did not.
what do you think
I did
about
not.
Yamazaki's comments about Godzilla?
So nice foreshadow. He's a storyteller at heart. I often see the transformations on TikTok where everybody's like, "Oh my God, Godzilla minus one!" Like this looks so crazy for the budget they had was crazy low, when they came out with something that everybody was like, "Now this is a Godzilla film." Because I
Mm-hmm.
kept hearing that it was like, "Now this is honest to God what I want in a Godzilla film," and it's beating all these other Godzilla films out with the amount of money they have in their budgets versus this guy who's, you know, faking it until he makes it, and um, it's just awesome to see. So hearing that he's got a bigger budget, um, I don't know, it kind of raises concern. Like, hey man, don't blow it. Like you had it, you did awesome with the smaller one. Now, you know, let's stay on the same track and don't go overboard. And you lose your heat, lose your momentum.
Yeah, I don't like the MonsterVerse. I have never liked the MonsterVerse. I think that like there are times where it gets my blood pumping. Like there was a scene in the original Kong Godzilla versus Kong or whatever, and it's where Godzilla jumps out of the ocean and like they're screaming at each other. That's like a moment. Like that was cool. But I just don't know if I can get behind this like CGI mess and like they're cool, but it's like watching Godzilla and you mechanical armed King Kong jumping around this weird universe of other King Kongs and doing whatever. And they're like this buddy cop film that is unique and it's original. It's cool, but it's like I look at films like Shin Godzilla. That was what I just was sitting here trying to look up because I couldn't remember what it was called. Shin Godzilla is insane. The production value on that one was super low, a lot like minus one. It is a fantastic watch. It's scary. There are legit portions. Its story isn't as good as minus one, but there are portions in that where Godzilla is adapting because like throughout the film he's evolving constantly. And there are genuine like that humanity is going to win out, and that Godzilla is going to get defeated. But there are moments in Shin Godzilla where I was like, how are they going to stop this? And like it's moments like that, like that's why I love Doctor Who for so long, is because there were moments in that show where it's like, how is this guy gonna stop this? And Shin Godzilla made me feel the exact same way. And there will never be a sequel to that one, which is what concerns me most. I think this guy, if he didn't have a direction for it, because he seems to, like that really, you read that and that comes from a passionate place. That doesn't come from a money thing. I think he says or he alludes to the higher budget as like an excitement thing. But exactly what you said, I hope he doesn't lean away from what made him successful. And I hope that he's able to use the budget to grow like in scope, but not in production value. Because I think that if he were to create an entirely CGI Godzilla, it would look a lot less intimidating. But that's
Right.
that. Yeah. What do you have to say, Jake?
I don't have much. I wasn't big into the MonsterVerse either. It borders the horror part. I just can't get into Big Lizard.
I love Big Lizard, but I love Big Lizard when Big Lizard is scary. I think that in the MonsterVerse they make him too human, and that's literally the opposite. I think of like what I want from a Godzilla movie. I'm not even gonna say the purpose of a Godzilla movie because I have no idea. Because I say that, or I was about to say the purpose of Godzilla, and then I think back to the old Japanese like 1970s, 60s versions where it's a dude in a costume karate kicking another dude looking like a robot. You know, like so it's like I can't necessarily say that that's not the point, but it's just not my cup of tea. I like it when he's a scary monster and he's almost impossible and he breathed fire. But moving on, we're running into the last few stories here, but we have an interesting segment following that, and we're a little over, but stay with us. I think you're going to enjoy what we have in store for you. Robert Pattinson has confirmed that Batman 2 will begin filming at the end of this year, and that it's, quote, very cool. Pattinson also spoke about how his fan base has changed over the years and how now it's mostly comprised of a bunch of guys, stating, it's cool. It's a new one for me. Before I get to the last little headline involving Robert Pattinson, he's a man of words. He's a wordsmith, if you will. He's just you just can't help but stop and listen. It's cool.
Yeah, this guy's got a way with words. It's just
Yeah.
it just sounds like a guy doing like the white guy smirk with a thumbs up, like cool.
Yeah. Yeah. No, but
And you guys can't see me, but like I did the perfect white guy. Like I am the embodiment of what Robert Pattinson was saying. It's cool. Just a bunch of guys liking Batman. It's cool. You know?
he's so happy
Yeah.
too. I don't know why, but when I read that comment for the first time, I could feel I could just feel his happiness just emanating. He's like, I'm over the vampire.
Yeah, well, and for him to say it's a new one for me, it was like, well, actually, now that you say it, yeah, that's that's pretty true. He's not had really a bunch of guys kind of following. Um, so yeah, good for him. I'm glad he likes that or thinks it's cool or is super nonchalant. I don't know how he feels. It's
It
just cool.
it took yeah, it's cool. It took a really long time for him to kind of shed that skin. You know, like
The diamond encrusted
yeah,
shiny skin.
this is the skin of a killer, Bella. Like
The skin of the killer. It took a while to shed that.
it took a long time. That is still that like it's to the point where he will never escape it. But he's done, and he's shown his chops, his range is so vast that it doesn't matter. You know, like people will always reference just like I did, just hang on, Spider Monkey. Like these lines will forever be associated with him. However, now he's Batman. You know, he's a horror cult classic in The Lighthouse. Think about everything he's done. Like it's just, and I think that we're about to get another one, which is our last piece of Robert Pattinson news because I didn't know we'd have a Robert Pattinson segment. However, lastly, about our film news, Bong Joon-ho's Mickey 17 debuts with Rotten Tomatoes at 86% after 28 reviews. There's going to be a lot more to come, specifically from Rotten Tomatoes. I think they do around 30 or 40. They do a pretty high number of critic reviews with their tomato meter. But with the 28 reviews, Mickey 17 doing well.
It's an interesting concept for that movie. I mean, isn't it like copying a guy over and over again and sending him to die?
Yeah,
That's
it
the whole-
looks really like, from what I remember from the synopsis, it's they're trying to scavenge this ice planet. They're trying to do research, and so they have this guy named Mickey that they clone, And it's just every time he dies, they clone him again. And when he's on 17, he's died 16 times. And wherein the climax of the film and the controversy and where the plot point gets moving forward is when turns out 16 didn't die. And now there are two Mickeys, and that's where they go. Apparently, that's some big faux pas, and it's a no-no. So we'll see. It looks hilarious. I think this is going to be another one of those films that it's like Edward, Batman, The Lighthouse, Mickey, and
Yeah.
I'm excited to see where this film goes. Any final comments before we do our last bit on the show? A new one for us.
Robert Pattinson as Nosferatu probably would have also helped shed the skin.
No.
And I dumbfounded him. He was speechless there for a second. He did not expect
I
that.
won't lie. I was trying to figure out how to do that Transylvanian accent that Skarsgård pulls off, but I couldn't do it. So I can't roll my tongue at all. So I just decided just to let it be and not butcher the audience eardrums. Take it away,
Oh,
Jake.
man.
Take it away.
So we had a listener question come in through our DMs, and he sent a reel along with it. So basically asking, is there something off about the quality of new movies and them being so crisp and such high quality that they actually look worse? And the reel that the listener sent us was created by Mr. Movie Must Knows, and it compares Happy Gilmore and Happy Gilmore 2. So one being done in 1996 and the other one coming out in 2025, saying that Happy Gilmore 2 just looks worse. And my take on that was, I mean, we're in the commercial era of movies. Everything's going to look super realistic and commercial like it looked like just a commercial for like Ozempic or something. Like the Happy Gilmore's out there swinging a golf club, and it's like, you know what, I couldn't do this without X drug, you know. So, and then the creator also mentions Christopher Nolan's films still having that grittiness and the look of a movie that makes it, I guess, quality in that person's opinion. And the listener agreed with that and had asked us to talk about it. So I would like to make a few points before I ask Ryan what he thinks. So Happy Gilmore 1 was shot on 35 millimeter film using Claremont cameras and lenses, as well as a movie cam compact, which I'm not too keen on what that is. And then Happy Gilmore 2 was shot on, we don't know the camera. However, we do know it was RE Signature Prime lenses, which likely means that it was also shot with an RE body. Um, Other Happy Madison films like Murder Mystery 2 and many other films out there today are shot on RE Alexa 35s or 65s. They're shooting like 6.5 K, so not 4K, 6.5K raw, not on film. It's digital. And then I'm not even going to go into however many cameras Oppenheimer used, but they used 35 millimeter and 70 millimeter for those really good shots. And so I think film versus digital, this plays back into the whole debate that's been going on since digital came out, is which one's better, which one looks better, colors, you know, overall feel, the grain. And it boils down to preference, but yeah, I mean, you can't get rid of the feel of film. You know, you're always going to be sitting in that scene. I was like, dang, that looks awesome. And it doesn't matter how high of resolution you get. I don't care if it's 12K, which there are some cameras out there that are more than, you know, my house. So that will shoot in 12K, but there's always going to be those people who's like, man, film's just better. It's just better. Ryan, you got thoughts?
Yeah, I think you hit it just nail on the head as always. I think the main difference, and this is my response in the chat, was that like color, and that's a big thing that people have talked about, is like, man, are films just not colorful anymore? And that's like been a conversation and a debate, and I don't think that that's just because a lot of times too, like another thing you'll see online is like, this is what my childhood looked like, and it's super saturated, and there's just color everywhere, and it looks almost neon, and it's accurate. Like you get a sense of nostalgia, and then it says life now, and it's super like there's not a lot of contrast. It's super matte. There's a lot of grays, almost grayscale, like really just colorless. And you know, while we could go on and on about just that meme or that format or what that's trying to say. But also, I think that there's a reason for that, and because the media we absorb now, exactly what you said, I think you hit it nail on the head. It's color. And I think the majority of that is because it's the difference between film, like film reel, printing on a film reel versus digital. And I think that film reel, it captures those contrasts. Like you talk about grittiness with Christopher Nolan films. Think about every film prior to 2005, right? They all have that same feel, like that, especially the classics, where your blacks are super like just contrasted out of your mind. Like you can completely see a lot of shadows, very moody. That's what film gives you. You get a sense of color that's unlike anything else. That's the like film is legendary for a reason, but it's also a lot harder to work with. It's also a lot more limiting in terms of space, in terms of how much you can have, and in terms of how many mistakes you can make. And we're human. So digital, I think that while it can be, if you have the time and the money, it can be edited to look more like film, like actual film reel. It is a lot cheaper to just say, and I know in my work when I'm editing, like I don't edit it to look like a cinematic masterpiece, especially with my line of work. But like when I'm editing, I say, does white look white? You're already shooting 6.5K, right? Like you have a color palette. Like if you really want one, like if you're Wes Anderson, he's shooting in digital, I'm pretty sure. He says, hey, like I want these colors to be prolific. We're going to dress the setup and our actors in this specific color palettes, and then we're going to throw super high saturation on that thing, no contrast whatsoever, unless you have the like rare scene here and there, and you're going to go, right? Do you really think Happy Madison and Adam Sandler care about the color palette of the film Happy Gilmore 2? They don't. They're not going to put that much effort into it. They're not going to spend that much money to make sure that it's of that quality. They're going to say, we spent $10,000 a day for an RA65, and we're gonna, pay what we have to pay to make the color scheme look not only clear, but like white is white, like it's looking true to color for what it shot. They might up a contrast here and there to make it easier for the audience to see, but you're not going to get that grittiness that you described like you would if you just shot on a film, because innately you don't really have to do that when you shoot on film. Yes, you have to color correct. Yes, you have to fix it up in post. But the natural state of what film looks like. I just had a conversation with this with a photography professor at the university that I work at. She was complaining because she cannot teach like actual like photography anymore, like on actual like real like Polaroid. She can't do that anymore. And she was complaining about the difference between, even in photography, the difference between like having to teach fully digital and just actual on real, like in that Polaroid type. So, and I know I'm blanking on the terminology, I'm sorry, but like that's like a whole thing, is that like this is beyond just film. So it is really like, I don't know. I think that digital has a long way to go despite being 6.5K. It's sad because it's so gray, lifeless even. Like life, it's sad when you can look outside and there's more wonder in the world than on the screen in some films.
Is that the final opinion, Ryan?
That's all I
It
got
will
for
never be filmed.
no, I don't think I don't know where I lay, because to be honest with you, it is so easy. Like I throw an SD card into my camera and I go. Like I'm not thinking about
I
whether
can't
it's,
imagine shooting film
that's what I'm
for what I
saying.
do. There's
Yeah.
no way.
Like I don't even have to think about how I'm taking stuff. Like if I screw up, okay, I'll just hit my, look back through my clips or my photos and just delete what I don't like and then continue. I don't have to try to, ugh. So, I'm very,
Why I'm-
go ahead.
That's why I'm thinking we're in the commercial era. Everything's going to look like a commercial, because that's what I mean. Commercials and marketing and videos, in that sense, they're not going to shoot in film. There's way too many mistakes and way too many things you have to do to make a commercial, or to shoot a reel, to run 70 millimeter film. And so that's why everything looks less, lesser than.
Yeah. I mean, even commercials too. And that's a great point, is that like everything kind of centralized into what is like easiest, again, digital. Like back in the day, it was like commercials were shot on a higher frame rate, so you could tell the difference. Like they looked like not quite like soap operas, like 120 frames, but like they you could tell a difference. Think of infomercials, old infomercials. Think about that, just that look where you see everything and it's the same lighting because it's the same set every single time. That's gone because they're shooting with the same cameras that I use, that Jake uses, that, that a lot of filmmakers use now. And you can look it up. Average frame rate
Oh,
now.
they're using red cameras to shoot commercials,
Yeah.
and it's crazy.
Average frame rate in commercials now are almost cinema. They're 30, which is crazy. So yeah, I mean, it's sad. Everything is centralized because it's easier and it does look good. But the thing is, when you combine digital and you combine everything looks the same, everything is gray.
And you can't fake film, no matter how hard you try.
No.
Just can't do it. So,
Well, I think if that's all we got, we're way over our normal time here. But again, if you guys liked the longer format, we've gotten some feedback that the longer format is desired. I yap a lot, so I have no problem.
you gave this guy a hall pass, guys. I hope you know you're in for it. You've
Thank
given
you.
him the ability to just yap. Next one's going to be 3 hours.
I have recorded a 4-hour podcast before, so you say that hyperbolically, but I will actually talk that long. I have a problem. But moving off of my problems, we're going to go ahead and end the show. Jake, any final remarks for the amazing people at home?
If anybody's willing to buy me an RE, there's a kit out there that comes with 8 prime lenses for about $280,000, Ryan. Anybody's so
292.
generous. We would put that $292,000 to work. All right.
I mean, we could share it. We would share it. I
No, I appreciate it.
Well, in that note, if anyone also has another $300,000 laying around, I'd like my own if we're handing them out. And on that note, I think we're good to go. Thank you guys so much for spending this 90-ish minutes with us, and we'll see you next week.